Now welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Thor's lightning takes as always. And let's get right to the news.
Okay, so we've got 3 fresh stories for you today. First one, Hayden Christensen on the lightsaber duels in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Duels, like there's going to be many of them.
Duels, with an S. Okay. In the May printed edition of Total Film, there are a few gems of information yet to be gleaned on the upcoming show. Hayden was asked about the fighting style Vader will bring to the series. He said, "We're more in line with the prequels than we are with how the fights are in the original trilogy. These characters have aged, but not that much yet." He also gave his opinion on how the series will join both the original and the prequel trilogies. "We're adding more connective tissue, and so that has to line up. That was something that I was cognizant of, even when we were doing the prequels. In knowing there's someone else that played this character before me and after me, and we have to find something that just feels right. I spent a lot of time just watching all the Star Wars stuff I could, from the original films to the animated shows, Clone Wars, Rebels, and all of that." Props to Hayden.
Yeah, he's doing his research.
They are. I like that they're
homework.
paying attention to connectivity.
Well, yeah.
Hopefully they are very, very careful in that regard, because fans, we're gonna see
We're
it.
gonna
We're
pick
gonna
it
look
apart.
at it.
I mean, even in good fun, it's always like, oh, why are you so nitpicky? Well, sometimes it's part of the fun, right? Is just trying to find the connective tissue, trying to see what links to what or what doesn't make sense. It's not always done mean-spirited. Is kind of the problem I think people don't understand. Like I enjoy looking for it. I enjoy theorizing and speculating. And just because I don't like something doesn't mean I have to be mean-spirited about it or that I'm trying to be. But no, I like everything Hayden has to say here. I'm glad he's been doing this. I hope. I mean, even in the Disney Gallery Book of Boba Fett, we had Dave Filoni saying how it's one big story.
Absolutely.
Fans want that the connectivity. They want cohesion, and that's that's what a story is, right? A story is a series of consistent events where one thing makes sense compared to the previous thing and makes sense compared to the next thing. So
I found what he said about the...
well, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I found what he said about the duels very interesting, the lightsaber fights, because Hayden and Obi-Wan... I'm crossing names, I'm sorry.
Hayden and Obi-Wan. Yes, you are.
Vader,
I didn't even realize it. That's
Anakin and Obi-Wan.
That's how much I think of these characters and the actors as like one and the same.
Yeah.
Like, yes, Hayden and Obi-Wan, yes.
Well, they were obviously both trained during the time of the Jedi, where they were trained classically, you could say.
Yeah.
So I can see why it makes sense that they're going to fight closer to a prequel style, though I hope it's less spinny choreograph and more emotional fighting. You know what I mean?
It doesn't need to be, like 3 hours long like it was in episode 3. It was a very long fight in that movie. Not that I'm complaining,
Well,
but...
I'm not talking about just that fight in general. Just some of the choreography in the prequels. The lightsaber duel, some of them just had so many unnecessary... I'm like, well, if a real swordsman was doing that, that's
Yes.
a little awkward.
You generally don't like kind of spin and...
Spin move.
Yeah,
You're like, what are you doing?
But sure, I mean, it is more of an art style, though. It's not just about... I mean, it should just be about the fighting, but
I
it is more of a
yeah.
performance.
Well, I want to see it more like how samurai, where they're speaking with their swords. I want emotion to come across in the sword fight. I want them to be having a conversation of crossed blades.
Sure. Well, I think the most accurate fight in all of Star Wars is probably Kenobi versus Maul in Rebels, where it's about 3 or 4 moves and you have a winner.
And it's over, yeah.
Because that's how sword fights really are. They're not these elaborate, dances. But again, it's spectacle, it's entertainment. That's part of the lightsaber fights. People want these grandiose fights, I think. So,
well, and he's right. They're not terribly old yet. They're not going to fight again for another
weren't
10-ish
really that
years
old
or something.
Like Vader wasn't that old in A New Hope. He was in his 40s, and I feel like I could still do a good spirited lightsaber fight if I was trained how to.
Offsides, I mean, we know that Obi-Wan's been chilling on a planet after this. He's not going to be fighting lightsaber duels and possibly keeping in practice. Maybe he's gotten some injuries over the years through maybe skirmishes with Tusken Raiders or just the hard work and maintaining his little hut in the wastes. So we don't exactly... I mean, Vader might have had some extra injuries we don't know about between...
Well, even the ones we do know about are pretty severe and limiting.
Between Kenobi and when they meet up again in New Hope, we don't know why or what rationale we could use as to why their duel was a little more...
A little more. I mean,
yeah.
Let's call it as it is. I mean, the film was made in 77 before we knew any... Well, not made in 77. It came out in 77 before, we knew anything about Star Wars, knew anything about light. It's the precedent setter.
Was
and
literally to draw the blades in.
Yeah, exactly. So it is what it is for 1977, right? And we kind of have to just accept that. And, if that movie was made today, of course, that would be a lot more elaborate than what it was back then. So it's one of those things that you just kind of have to, you accept it. It is what it is, right?
I mean, I've seen some fan edits that have done a really nice job of splicing the original footage from the A New Hope in with a more
there's that one
choreographed.
That's got like tens of millions of views.
Yeah, that one's fantastic. I wish that was in the actual movie.
Well, yeah, and plus they have some more dialogue that kind of relates to it's fantastic done. So
fantastic. All right, are we ready to move on?
I think so.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order release window may have been revealed. Hooray! Knowledge is power.
That's different, but okay.
Whatever. EA may have given the release time frame in a new financial presentation they just did the other day. They outlined the games that have been slated to release over the course of the company's next fiscal year. So that information can tell you what quarter certain titles are going to be launching in what time frame. Now, to be clear, Jedi Fallen Order 2 was not actually listed by name on the outline, but EA did mention that there was a partner title slated to launch in their Q4. That's no guarantee that it is the Fallen Order sequel, but it does align with all the information we kind of have around the upcoming game, around what time frame it's supposing. So that would put the launch date at some point between January and March 2023. I mean, maybe somehow we could learn more at Celebration, even though there doesn't seem to be a video game panel planned.
It's strange, yeah.
With all the game news we have, there's not a single panel
all the game news, and I mean, there's been big changes since the last Celebration. Lucasfilm Games is now a thing. It's kind of resurrected, from...
But then again, maybe if they want to keep things more secretive, more on the down low, they could just announce it on that fan stage or whatever they set up in the middle of the convention hall. Just be like, haha, everyone gets to know at once, so we're going to talk about it right here.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just surprised there's no game. I mean, like I said, we now have Lucasfilm Games where we used to have LucasArts, kind of the same thing, but not really. But so I'm surprised there is no Lucasfilm Games panel at all at this celebration. And I mean, one of the last rumors we heard before this was that it wouldn't carry the Fallen Order as part of its title. Which kind of makes sense, maybe, because, that's kind of picking up the pieces of Order 66 and, all of that. And this is, I think, kind of going to move on beyond that. So I'm fine with the name change. I'm sure it'll have, Jedi... Something Order, probably. Yeah. Or something along those lines. I could actually mention why it just mentioned it as a partner title is because maybe that rumor really is true that the name has not been finalized for it. Could be, or they're trying to keep it a secret, so they didn't want to name it. Or I mean, they could have just called it Jedi Fallen Order 2, but then people are going to be, so it's just going to be, you start the whole rumor mill. Yeah, then the rumor mill one's in a different direction. But no, I guess that's fine. I mean, a lot of people are hoping more November, October, which is a huge video game window. A lot of the big AAA titles seem to come out right before Christmas, of course. So kind of surprised they're going to miss that window, but maybe they're trying to avoid all the competition. I don't know what games are coming out this November or scheduled. I'm not always up to date on all of that. So maybe they're just trying. I know some of them. I'm not as big into games as I was when I was younger, but... Oh, we're wrong. There is one panel for video games. Star Wars Hunters. Yeah, so there's no panels for video games. But no, I'm guessing maybe that they're waiting to polish it. Maybe it's just they don't want the competition in that window. But you'd still think before Christmas is where they'd want it. But who knows? Well, that is subject to change, of course. Of course. All right, last story today. Joanna Bennett talks about playing a Tusken in the Book of Boba Fett. I found this article really interesting. I didn't know much about her until I started reading about her. Makes sense, right? It does make sense. You didn't just learn it through osmosis or something. So she was the main Tusken training Boba Fett. Her Tusken Raider was like a favorite of mine. I mean, it was cool to see the Tuskens in a new light, honestly. Joanne spent some time talking with the Boba Fett fanclub.com about her experiences working on the show. She specifically mentions the importance of respecting the gaffy stick and how important it is with the Tuskens. It's such a huge part of their style, their culture. And I think that really came across well in the show about respecting the gaffy stick. Yeah. All right. She says things like, as a fighter, you always respect your weapon. It's sacred. There's respect to handling it.
They put thought into every move with the gaffy, even the way it's just held. She talks about working with Tamora Morrison on the warrior fighting style. I mean, giving his incorporation of the Mori Hakai into Boba Fett's fighting style back in The Mandalorian. The pair were already friends because they worked together on DC's Aquaman. She's actually a very famous stunt woman. She was Gal Gadot's stunt woman for Wonder Woman. In Aquaman, she was the stunt woman for both Nicole Kidman and Amber Heard. She was also a stunt person for somebody in Marvel. Captain Marvel. So, I mean, that's just her superhero repertoire. I mean, she's pretty well known. So they were already friends from Aquaman. And Tamora had a big influence in the final ceremonial ritual around the fire. That's what she says. He was a great asset when it came time to connect his training sequences to the Boba Fett we see him later become. She also lets us know that the Tusken warrior costume is very rough to work in. Extremely limited vision, with obviously no peripherals with the mask, kind of a tunnel vision, and those long robes just hinder movement. It's funny the Tuskens wear them if they're so hard to work with. But it is a testament to her skill that she was able to make her character stunts like so real when I guess that really has a lot working against you. The challenge was also to make sure like you could read her intention through the movements because she can't use facial expressions. Everything is told through body language. Joanna also reveals one of her favorite memories working on the show, and I think you'll like this one. It was one of the first training sequences with Boba, and she actually slapped Tamora on the head. At first, she says she was just selling it for the camera, but then Tamora looked at her and said, "Don't hold back." And on the next take, she really let him have it. And when they finished the scene, she asked him if he was okay, and he smiled, and they both just started laughing.
Nice. Gotta respect that.
Well, I like that in the articles on her quotes, she actually just refers to him as Tem. And I was like, oh.
Good friends, clearly.
Good friends. Yeah, I like that. They must have really bonded on the set of Aquaman.
That's why I refer to you as just Nab.
No, you don't. So what do you think about...
No, I think that's really cool. I mean, it's funny how I'm sure back in the, speaking, we were talking about the original trilogy and, A New Hope before. I'm sure back in the day, Lucas is like, yeah, put some weird costumes and these are going to be some desert guys and they're going to attack our heroes. That's my best George Lucas impression right there. But I'm sure there was very minimal thought put into the Tuskens, their culture, all of that. The gaffy stick is probably originally like some... picked up and spray painted, and all right, give this is we're gonna call it a gaffy stick.
It's a weapon.
That's what I love about Star Wars is just the passion that George. It's obviously George Lucas's initial creation, but so many other people have put so much into it along the way, right?
I mean, the Tusken Raiders, especially, they have evolved so much. Yeah. I mean, thinking of them in the original trilogy, then you see them briefly in the prequels.
In the Legends, we learn a little bit about it. You just read the Kenobi book.
Legends.
A lot of Tusken Raider lore in there. So,
and then they moved us into the Mandalorian, where we started humanizing them.
Yeah.
And now in Book of Boba Fett, we are learning more about their culture and their ways, and it's so cool to see some character who started out as kind of just make some weird characters out in the desert.
Put some little goggles on them. Yeah. No thought was probably put into any of that, and now people have gone back and tried to. Reason out why they wear the little goggles, why they have their gaffy sticks, but their relationship with their banthas, which sounded funny, but you know what I mean. It's really cool. It's cool that, like I said, that's what I love about Star Wars. Is it starts with this one little idea from one guy, and it's expanded into an entire galaxy, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm cool story. All right, well I guess that's all we got for you this time. So take to the comments below. Tell us what you think about today's news from Naboo. And so, let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.